Hello and welcome to Colleague 7 Sprint Review for 19.01.02. This will cover the work undertaken between the 22nd of January to the 4th of February. Starting with the sprint goal, and for this sprint our plan was to begin work on the back office project with the introduction of Pio Numbers and to undertake the final development work to complete the first phase of our API launch. Looking at the high-level items and to explain further, in this sprint, we've been able to begin work introducing back-office workflow into Colleague 7. This has started with the ability to store PO numbers against company and placement entities. We've updated our API again, this time with the control to retrieve a list of lookup codes from Colleague 7. And this completes the initial phase of works which we began some time ago and allows us to launch the API in an official capacity on our website. Regarding the Broadbean work, we've updated the new tab on the requirements with the option to download the applicant's CV. We've added the logo, social media icons and notes options which are present on the candidate and contact record to the company record. We've completed an investigation into the notifications area with a view to improving performance, and further work will follow on this. We fixed an issue which we were seeing getting raised with regards to the manual update of GDPR consent against the candidate and contact record. We've added an expiry date option to checklist items, and we've added tax codes to the lookup area in admin. We'll now go through a brief demonstration of the key features from this sprint. Okay, so the first point to cover is on the company record, and that's the addition of the profile and notes area and social media links which have been added within here. So on the admin page or admin tab of a company record, you'll now have the option to set a company logo against that company, and you'll be able to assign, you had the social media links before, but you'll be able to access those through the social media icons as well. You also have the notes section here as well. So that, like it is with the candidate and contacts record, the notes section or the note that appears here is defined by a user setting. So within your user settings, the access here, you'll be able to set against the company which note tab you want to see within that area. So here against the notes, you've obviously got 5 different note sections that you can obviously utilize. Depending on which note you prefer to have visible within that area is depending on obviously that setting. So that note will come through, and then that note area will obviously update. You can type into that, and obviously that will update the notes against the company as well as if you were typing it from within that area. So that's based on basically the update. Just as a recap, if you want to add an image to a profile, you go to the documents area, and if you've got an image that's in here, if you assign the document type of profile picture, when you next go back to the company record, or if you refresh the company record, you'll see that picture essentially assigned there, and then that will be that way moving forwards. So that's the main point with regards to the company admin page. Staying with the company record, the next point to cover, and it was really the main work item or development item of the sprint, and that's the introduction of PO numbers. So from within a company record, PO numbers are accessed off the View More tab. You've got PO numbers there now as an option to select. The actual that option being present on this submenu is actually dictated by a user group permission. So if we could go to admin and go to user group permissions, just to show that option in there, you've got, scroll down to it here, got view PO numbers and add edit PO numbers. So those are 2 settings that can be set, and if you've got that set to no access, then this option obviously wouldn't be viewable to that user of accessing PO numbers. But you can also have access to PO numbers but not be able to add or edit any PO numbers. So that will give you access to this area, but it will make it a read-only access essentially. So that depends on your preference with regards to users' ability to access PO numbers. But with regards to how it's set up, over the View More option here, select PO numbers, and just as we have for most of the workflows in the system, it will scroll down from above in a partial view, listing the different PO numbers assigned against the company. We've got 1 PO number assigned here. If I want to edit this PO number and I've got the rights to do so, I can just select that, and it will just bring through the details there. You've got the option to delete and obviously edit and save in there. And if we want to add a PO number, then we could just hit add, and then it will bring through, and you'll have the option obviously to set different PO numbers. So I'll set just a generic PO number here, put an order date associated with it, give it an expiry. There, set a currency, order type, stipulating whether or not it's for all types of orders or whether or not it's just purely against instances of timesheets for contracts, charges for expenses, and a permanent for permanent vacancies, and then obviously the total value of the PO number. Hit save on that, and it will obviously assign that PO number against that company record. So that's from the perspective of the company. What we'll now do is go over to the placement entity, and then we'll view the PO numbers from within there. So if I go to a permanent placement which is associated to this company, again from review more, what we have here is PO numbers as an option there. So from within placement, it's slightly different because you're able to call on the company PO numbers that have been assigned, but you're also able to add placement PO specific PO numbers. So within, sorry, I did that a bit fast then, but sort of, again, off the view more option, you've got PO numbers set there. That will also show this option of add PO number and stipulate whether or not you're adding a placement PO number or a company PO number. And obviously you have the PO numbers that you've selected to be assigned already against the placement listed here. So what we'll do is if we assign a company PO, obviously it will list different company PO numbers that are against the record, and what we'll do is we'll assign the new one that we stipulated there and hit save, and that's brought that one through. And what you can also do is add a placement PO, and a placement PO is literally just a PO number, so it's just a case of assigning a number here, and you can stipulate a type there and hit save. So a company PO obviously has its associated expiries and its value relating to it, whereas a placement PO is purely just the reference of the PO number against the placement entity. So this is essentially where we currently sit now with regards to POs. Obviously, it's being held for management information and just from informational purposes. But further down the line, as we go about introducing further workflow, back office workflow, that will then tie into these PO numbers, so we can build in a sort of a full setup with regards to POs and how that value is calculated based on the invoicing and the payments that you're making against them. So for now, this is for informational purposes, but we have PO numbers now in the system, and that's the update we've made there. So the next point to cover just relates to the Broadbean integration and our next step along really in terms of that work. So what we had before was an adverts tab, but there's been a terminology change, a name change to that to refer to it now as job boards, just so that we're better aligned and it's clearer to the end user in terms of what this functionality and what the purpose of this area is. So just as we had before the ability to be able to post to Broadbean via this function and that create an advert. Now what you have off the job boards tab is the ability to view the applicants that have come back. This is as it was before, so what you can now do is obviously see the different job boards that have obviously been associated with the post that was sent out and what date that was, and the responses that have come back from each. So what we've had is obviously 3 responses from here. We click on that job board and it will load the applicants relating to those different applications. So there you've got the names of the applicants, email addresses, and obviously the source that it's come from. What you can now do is download the associated CV in relation to the application. So you can click here to download that CV very readily and obviously have access to that. What we're going to be incorporating next is the means to be able to click on another icon here, which will then obviously long list these candidates against the requirement, and that essentially completes that 360 expectation in terms of posting out but also retrieving back applications. What you also have now, again, just to clarify in some of the functionality, you've got an option to open advert here. So that's based on the selection of the job board. You can open the advert, that'll open up in a new tab, and you'll be able to go into Broadbean and just see the advert from within Broadbean's perspective. Again, you'll see that the different job boards listed there, the responses associated with. Also you have obviously a delete job board option as well. So you can select a job board and obviously choose to delete it if there's either no responses coming back, or if there's a reason that you wish to, from a tidy up perspective, just administer that area. So that's where things currently sit. The key work as part of this current sprint was essentially giving you that means to be able to download those candidates' CVs as part of the applications, and that's what we did there. Another minor point to mention is within the checklist tab of all entities that support the addition of checklists. There's now the option of an expiry date. So this is just to help with scenarios where you have checklist items for things such as visas or passports, but there's obviously an associated expiry in relation to those items. So what you can now do is have obviously checklist items that are to be used in associating with meeting either certain compliance or meeting requirements as part of your registration process, but there'll be associated expiry dates to those, and then we'll be updating our reporting in relation to this so that you have the means in which you can obviously set expiries against checklist items and then review a list of the associated expiries of those checklist items. But that's just a minor update that we made as part of the sprint as well. The final point to cover relates to our API, and this essentially represents some of the more final updates that we'll be making in relation to the company, or the candidate element of the API for the time being. But essentially what we have had for some time now is an API that has been set up within the Azure API management service. What we have essentially built are a series of methods that allow you to do various different functions from an external point of view into Colleague 7. So you can now create a candidate record, you can update an existing candidate record, you can get a list of all the skills that are in a system, you can now get a list of all of the lookup codes that are in a system. What you can also do is search for an existing candidate record using a specific search, and update existing records and basically upload documents as well to records. So there's essentially an array of different methods now which cover the generic overview of what you need to do in order to be able to, as a developer, third party, try to either extract candidate information from the CRM or write to it, and those functions are all there specifically against the candidate record. So in that respect, the API is ready to be launched and used by third parties. What we will be doing is over time building in the methods so that we incorporate other entities in the system and other workflows that can be written to via an API. But what we really did in this sprint is really finalize things with regards to the API, so that this is now ready to be used by third parties. So that's the main component with regards to the API, and you'll see that launched over the coming weeks on our website. As always, if you have any queries or feedback, please get in touch. I'll be keen to hear from you. Also, for those using Colleague 7, feel free to submit your enhancement requests via the support team or directly to me using the above email address. The next video will be the sprint plan for 19.02.01, and as always, that will contain a high-level overview on the items we intend to work on during that sprint. Thanks for watching.